Resident Evil franchise is certainly, hands down, the longest running film franchise based on a video game. Uh, some may argue that it's the best, speaking of the original, the best adaptation of a video game, and some say, no, that goes to Mortal Kombat. I am of the former camp. As much as I enjoyed Mortal Kombat, the original Resident Evil is definitely a much better put together film. The Resident Evil franchise was launched in 2002, and here we are in 17 rather, with the sixth and final film in the series. Incidentally, Resident Evil, the video game series, is already going on to its seventh entry. Resident Evil, the final chapter. Once again being written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, and features Milla Jovovich as Alice, the one sole character that has appeared in all 6 films. The final chapter picks up pretty much exactly where the last one left off, which was Resident Evil Afterlife, I believe it was. Or was it Rebirth? Yeah, it's... or was it Retribution? Well, you know what I mean. The last Resident Evil film basically left our characters in Washington, D.C. on the White House. And this one picks up immediately after that, or not long after that, and we discover things are not as they seemed where they were going. And events unfold that draws Alice back to the hive where it all started. And she returns in the hopes of actually ending this entire zombie apocalypse. And how she gets there is basically the gist of the film. Now, it feels like this one is decidedly, even though scope, it's kind of large, but it's actually quite narrow-minded. Not narrow-minded because plot-wise is like thin or anything like that, but narrow-minded and focused because it's really focusing on Alice herself. A lot of especially in the beginning, a lot of the time is just with her, and definitely the arc of the story strictly follows her character, and any other characters having to get in the way is just cannon fodder, or in some cases just a mere distraction from the overall story arc. But Anderson really focused the story on her to wrap up her entire story arc from the beginning. This film definitely gives up answers as to the reasons why, for example, the reasons why the apocalypse happened, why we saw multiple clones of Alice in previous editions of Resident Evil, and what exactly is, what's it all mean, and how's this going to end. And I kind of like that part, of the fact that Anderson really focused the story. And Milla Jovovich is great, as always, as Alice, and I really liked her in this. And she actually has moments where she actually shows Alice has some depth to her. And the film features some great fights and some great action set pieces and some cool creatures. But the real problem I had with the film was, for some reason, Anderson decided to go to the Michael Bay School of Editing. I mean, literally, it's cut, 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 cut. And it's like, yeah, I couldn't really sit back and appreciate just what exactly I was watching. I was getting into some of the fight scenes, except he keeps cutting to different angles so quickly that I can't really appreciate what the fighting is going on. I remember seeing her fighting creatures. We're not really able to actually really look at these creatures because it's like cut, 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 cut. It's like you only just get little pieces and you never get a full shot of what these things look like. And for the movie runs 106 minutes, and the entire movie is pretty much like that. It's rapid fire cutting. I don't know why he did it that way. It was very, 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 very distracting. I saw the movie in TD, in 2D. So I can only imagine with a rapid fire cutting like that, the 3D probably give you a headache, my guess. But other than that, the final chapter is a decent entry in the series. Certainly not the best. It's definitely in the middle of the pack. I like the story, and I like where it was going, and I liked how it does have an era finale to it. And I liked how it was able to piece it all together and make sense, even though at the time when I was watching, I couldn't really remember all the details of the first 5 films. And interesting enough, like the recent Underworld, the film opens with a pretty extensive recap of events from previous films, especially one where it really, in terms of story, it really establishes a certain plot point in the beginning, and it really spends some time before jumping into a quick recap. It's like, okay, this is what happened since the first Resident Evil, and so that was like kind of interesting how they had to do that just to keep people up to speed, because I think it's been maybe 3-4 years since the last installment. But and then once it gets into it, it was like it's a pretty for an undemanding horror action fan, it serves its purpose. But again, it's just that the Michael Bay cutting, it just kind of ruined the movie, and I wish he had stayed more traditional in that aspect. And there was also one element, well, not one, but a couple elements that genre fans will recognize from another film series in particular, that will probably like either raise some eyebrows or get a chuckle, and it was kind of like funny that Anderson went that route. I guess maybe he was hoping that audiences are so far removed from that film that it's been a generation since that movie came out. So hopefully maybe it's not fresh in people's minds, but that's not the kind of movie that would be forgotten. So I don't want to bring up what the movie is, because you're probably going to figure it out. So just figure, you'll recognize it when you see the film, if you see the film. So Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, I would give 3 stars out of 5. 3 stars out of 5. It might be a little closer to 3.5, but not enough to get there, mainly because of the choppy, rapid fire editing. So 3 stars for the conclusion to the Resident Evil franchise, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. So, if you like this review, hit that like button below. Are you a fan of the Resident Evil franchise? What's your favorite film in the series? We're looking forward to the final chapter. What were you hoping to see in this film? Please comment below and let me know. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do, so you can stay on top of my new reviews, retro reviews, trailer reactions, and any other fun stuff I put up on my channel. And be sure to hit that bell button so you can be notified when I do so. So until next time, my friends, see you at the movies.